Yeah, I'm happy to direct and go ahead. Cool. Guys, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't do it on Notion, if I'm honest. But you might have to bear with me because obviously at the moment, Notion isn't a kind of presentations platform as of yet, but we like to hack it, right? That's the point. I think that's how we've all kind of come together as a community and how we're able to kind of share stories upstairs is because we don't get these use cases that we've just necessarily presented to us. You kind of have problems and then use it as a solution or a tool to solve them, right? And that's the point. And I think that point about Lego, which is also part of Notion's ethos and what I've designed Notion around. Think of the features as building blocks. Like quite literally, that's what Notion was designed around, Lego. And actually, if you get the opportunity to see the office as I have, there's actually Lego stacked everywhere, and the idea around design is also very key and very interesting as well. Like meeting rooms are named after designers, which kind of goes into that ethos of Notion, design and function, right? And that's the two pillars that kind of hold Notion together. Anyway, continue the Notion nerding. I wanted to talk about kind of powering community with Notion, on Notion, and so on and so forth. So just to introduce myself, my name's Faisa. I'm a community builder, nurturer, and curator. And if you ever speak to me, then I just don't stop banging on about community and community building. And I'm so excited to have had the opportunity to make Sinjin. And it felt like what started off as an initial conversation has manifested into what the room we're sitting in today, which is incredible and amazing. I'm so excited to see just how quickly you've been able to pull this together. So, yeah, no, it's amazing. And so, but I think just to kind of go back to why community, not only because I'm a yapper and anyone who will listen to me I'll take, but more of the fact that I very much view community as a lifeline in a lot of ways. It grew my network and introduced me to people from different walks of life. And once I really enjoyed doing that, and it actually introduced me to different parts of London. Oftentimes, if you grow up in such a big city such as London, especially in the area in which I grew up in, oftentimes people don't leave the areas. And so I felt quite constrained by that, and only found through community initiatives was the only way to get me out. When things like money were an issue and so on and so forth, these community initiatives that are powered, such as community stuff like Silicon Brighton, who power many meetup groups, like the lifeline in which that offers people is so incredibly important, and I think should continue to be invested in. The power of human connection. We've seen a bounce back in communities since COVID, for example, and we're seeing people actually lean even further into wanting in real life experiences. And so figuring out how those trends continue to evolve as community builders, and I know there's some in the room, it's really hard to keep up with, especially that shift from virtual to real life and only wanting real life. It's a lot of work, but very valuable and enriching work nonetheless. But most importantly, just a lot of it, my passion comes from the idea of kind of curiosity and kind of facilitating meaningful connections. And that has led me into just professionally working, predominantly doing it within the tech sphere, but then also didn't feel like that was enough. Glutton for punishment. I created a community of my own. And so I run a community called Somalis in Tech, primarily to solve an issue of I never really met other Somalis within the industry. One time I met someone who had the same name as me, and I was like, I like this feeling, I need to do it again. And so created a space in which Somalis can gather and teach each other, because I know a lot of us kind of haven't navigated it solo. And so it's really nice just to kind of get that validation and experience. But then what happened was the entire diaspora found it. So it went from just being the small London community into a global community, which made me have to pivot and figure out how I can teach community, which is how kind of led to my role at Notion today. So I wanted to talk about, when you talk about working in community, and I hope this provides a bit more color around what community progression could look like. You're all here in the room today. I love the fact that the Devotees Corner, it allowed people to participate, right? And already you feel a sense of, I've made my voice known, I'm here today, I've contributed meaningfully one way or another. And so these are the kind of steps in which that I saw, at least as far as my progression went, but then definitely in the time that I've been in community, I've seen others kind of take those steps as well. So obviously it begins with that active participation that could look like many different things. It could look like showing up, right? And I think in real life, actually showing up means a whole lot more than just a simple reaction to a post and so on and so forth, and just being a name on a screen. But showing up, of course, is really, really important, but then also kind of participating in discussions, events, and knowledge exchanges, providing that really, really meaningful feedback, whether it's, I love Devotees Corner, I'd love to see it actually demonstrated. Maybe we can move into a demonstration and kind of see it brought to life as well. See, that's me giving feedback. And there you go. And it's just, it kind of organically and naturally happens, right? And that's how the community kind of continues to grow and connections continue to build. What starts off as active participation may then lead into leadership. And leadership, sometimes we talk about leadership, oftentimes people think, oh, I'm going to go off and start my own thing, which is great. And I think if there's a gap for a problem, it doesn't even have to be a problem, an interest area you have, and you realize, hey, there isn't this thing for it, build it, and hopefully they will come. But then at the same time, I think there's opportunities to take leadership in amongst the communities that you're in as well. I don't know, Sinjin, I'm going to keep picking on you. And exactly. But I think what's amazing is that as you're building out this community is the opportunity for people to put their hands up and be like, hey, I noticed this was missing. And I think getting the opportunity to say to them, why don't you build that? Or what do you think that would look like? And empowering others to take ownership of the space as well. And I facilitate the idea that belonging and that community belongs to everyone. This is your space. I'm just merely a facilitator. So empowering people, giving people the space to speak and impart knowledge and so on and so forth. And that is a form of leadership, which then could lead into what I think the area and bucket that I'm very much exploring now is that teacher point of view, teacher, problem solver, and that's where I kind of lean into that more curation part. And so the way I do that at the moment is definitely kind of taking those lessons and learnings from managing large-scale communities. So Somaliland takes about 4,500 globally, and I hear about events being held in Dubai or Stockholm or Hong Kong, and I'm like, I'm not there, but I hope it's going well. But then that comes from creating resources, right? Creating resources, having some foundational work, especially for people who've never run events before in their life, but then also providing them the room to be creative and understand what their goals and needs are towards building. And I think that's how you kind of keep up that motivation and engagement at the same time as well. So hopefully that is a bit of context before I go into its Notion time. So Notion in general has always been a tool I've pretty consistently used throughout my community building journey. I think, yes, it's really great as a resources platform, but for those in my community programs will know, I use it quite heavily as a collaborative platform. As lovely as it is for me to write down everything onto a page, I want to know what you guys think, and I don't want to forget what you guys are saying. So the best thing to do is just share and create spaces and design a workspace in which people can just input very easily and utilize the space. And so that's what I've been primarily doing as UK Community Program Manager, which I started just last year. So the core focus programs that I focus on as UK Community Program Manager is our Notion Campus Leaders Program. So that's our Student Ambassador Program, which is, of course, just creating awareness, a buzz. At the moment, the way the Notion thinks about it is training the next generation into naturally using Notion, though oftentimes starting as note-taking, as most of us actually end up in Notion. But how do we get to use it from that point in their journey and then see the creativity based off of that? So the amazing stories that I heard is, as our last cohort of students, he was like, I like to break Notion and then fix it. And like he started showing us examples. And like there were seasoned employees in there, just they're mind blown by the way in which these students were utilizing it. And on top of that, students nowadays have like 4 businesses. I don't know what on earth how they have time for anything. I can barely keep up one job. So incredibly impressive people. They never make me feel like, they always make me feel like I'm never doing enough. So that's our program there, as well as our Notion Ambassador program, which very amazingly Sinjin is a pet member of, and so is Amy over here. And that is just bringing together our most passionate and creative users who, again, have been able to build businesses off the back of Notion, whether they're template creators, consultants, people who are generally passionate about that knowledge sharing and building on that knowledge. So, for example, Sally in Edinburgh, she just likes to run events. And so that's how she can kind of meaningfully contribute to our community ecosystem. And I love the idea that we all kind of come together and share that passion and learning and learn from one another as well and kind of continue facilitating that growth. So when it came to managing the UK community, for some background, Notion's very lucky as a company because do you know how hard companies have to work to build community? And they do it in very inorganic ways. It feels quite cringe, actually. But Notion have very organically, they hadn't touched the idea of community. People have just put their hands up as like really big advocates, and that need kind of drummed up. And then on top of that, the community themselves had then built communities off the back of it, again, with very little kind of guidance or foundation building from Notion themselves. I don't remember, Amy, maybe when you first started the London community, how mature the community program was as of yet, or at least when you joined as an ambassador, it was very new conceptually. Yeah. And so a lot of the building came from the motivation of the members and advocates themselves. And so what Notion have decided to do now is kind of work backwards, right? UK is a really interesting market to Notion. As we've mentioned, their HQ is at the moment is in Dublin. And so I'm actually the only person in the UK. And so they are just really interested in seeing how we can further build that bridge between Notion and our communities and see how we can further build and grow awareness and so on and so forth. So who knew? If we didn't meet at Amy's Notion London event and you were like, I want to start a Brighton community. And I was like, do it. And kind of figure out how to throw as much resources and support to kind of build that. Would we be sitting here today? Who knows? So thank you, Sinjin. Can we get a round of applause for Sinjin and put this together? It's amazing work that should never, ever go unnoticed. But how do we go about kind of building some of this? So I approached it with 3 themes, as I do with everything. And hopefully, I'd imagine most of you would tackle things this way as well. Firstly, learning. So that kind of one-to-one conversations. Amy, you might remember my one-to-one conversation. I was like, I have no idea what the landscape looks like here. So people like Amy, who have been a part of the program for a long time, had like created a picture for me. And then also facilitating group feedback. For example, the ambassadors had never gathered online before. So there's so many names and faces that they just don't recognize unless they facilitate that connection themselves. And so there was just really easy things I can kind of start to connect the dots on. Support, so unblocking some of that feedback that I provided, whether it's tricky resourcing or passing on some ideas to HQ. I don't know if you feel like you're a bit closer with HQ now that I'm around, but I can kind of fast track some certain things there. So I do definitely act as an advocate internally, and then providing resources, unlocking resources going forward, and then growing. So growing our community meaningfully. So I have been sending out strategically some invitations. I feel like sometimes when someone says, hey, I want to join, I'm like, you are going to join now that you said that, because I'm going to pester you until you do. And so hopefully strategically kind of sending out those invitations and then providing touch points for people to have collaborations. For example, we had 2 ambassadors who worked within the publishing industry as authors, but never knew that about each other. And so kind of connecting those dots and finding those touch points. So what does the Notion community look like today? So our community is super diverse. You'd think that, I think most tech communities are oftentimes filled with either tech professionals or those who are technically skilled, but we've got kind of, yes, they exist. We have software engineers, we have people with an engineering mind, but we also have authors, we have theatre directors, we have total productivity geeks, we have people who are entrepreneurs, people who found Notion through work and wanted to learn it as an individual themselves so that they can kind of continue empowering it that way. And so what I love about that is just, it's such a diverse community and people have stumbled across it in different ways. And then also, because of that 1% of knowledge that we all think we have, people also use it in different ways. So no No two workspaces look the same, even if they're using the same template, still doesn't look the same. And so that's what I really, really enjoy about a community. And the way they contribute is like, as I mentioned, hosting events. Shout out to Notion Devotion Brighton, Notion Edinburgh, Notion London. I'm looking forward to expanding on that. We do workshops, creating content, and continue to support other ambassadors as well in their personal endeavors. And I think that's something that I'm looking forward to facilitating more. It's like, I think the beauty of community and product communities is that you don't have to push the product in people's faces. Like they're already in. Like that's fine. It's like figuring out how we can help them beyond that, right? I feel like I'm giving away all my secrets to my community members, guys. Like, no, but it's really great. And so it included some pictures of how we kind of now gather and I'm building that consistency. So this is our virtual monthly meetup that we do. And look what we got here. That is so. Just to give you some background, so in the amazing conference that was organised by our incredible marketing team, we was able to carve out some specific community connect time, and so we opened the doors early for our community members, where they got to gather just them and got to see the space before it even opened to everybody, and so on and so forth. And I feel like hopefully that made people feel special and feel really recognised and listened to. But the activity was about building Lego, and it's so funny knowing what was going to happen before it happens. I knew the switch was going to happen and I knew everyone was going to be really upset in the moment about it. But basically what everyone did was like, they're in teams and they were building these towers and you could see how intricate they were being. And halfway through the session, the facilitator was like, right, we're going to switch. Everyone's going to swap. And, and so that really upset everyone because they put a lot of effort into the tower. But that's the point. That was the point of that pivot. Yes. Oh, you had to merge yours in the end. Yes. Yeah, see, because you view them as competitors, and that was the point. You're collaborators. I have a feeling there's still some hard feelings about that one. Well, Amy's team also won, actually. Yeah, Amy's team won too. And do you know, it was really tragic just seeing how many fell down at the last minute. Like,
as he was measuring them,
yeah,
just tumbled on
it tumbled, and so they were quite hardline about the rules as well. I felt bad. They were mostly students. That's why I felt terrible for them. So, but yeah, these are oftentimes. So these two examples are the first time we've done anything like that in the program so far. So I'm excited just to kind of continue building. With that in mind, what would I be doing if I didn't say, hey guys, if you'd like to get involved? So if you are interested in getting involved, feel free to check out our Notion Ambassadors workspace, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't know, Sinjan, if you are looking to expand your team or do anything, I might leave that to you to make that decision. But I think there's so many different ways in which you can contribute and aid in your knowledge and so on and so forth. And hopefully you both have good reviews of the program so far. But I'm always looking for people that show up, and that's the point. And you've already done the first hurdle. So hopefully you're interested by this. And I'm always happy to answer any questions as well. How are we doing for time today? Oh, I'm good. That's me done.